We've now left Maarat Hamachpela, and we're standing in a very special place. The name of the Beit Knesset that I'm standing in now is called the Beit Knesset Avraham Avinu. I'll explain the name a little later on. This Beit Knesset is important because it marked one of the first time that Jews had come back to Hebron. You see, after the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash, Jews really did not live in Hebron. And for many, many years, there were no Jews living here. In the year 1540, the Jews came from Spain, and they were scattered all over the world. Many Jews came to Eretz Yisrael. Some of them came to restart the Jewish community of Hebron. One of them, his name was Rav Malkiel Ashkenazi, decided to build a Beit Knesset, and that's the Beit Knesset I'm standing in today. Unfortunately, very few Jews came with him. In fact, maybe 10, 15 families lived here. At one point, some families left, and there were only 10 families left living here. And one Shabbat, only 9 families remained. They came to the morning to daven, but they didn't have a minyan. And they knew there were no Jews all the way to Yerushalayim. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, one Jew came and sat down and started davening. Everyone looked at each other. Where did he come from? There were no Jews around. Respectfully, they waited till the end of Tefillah. And as soon as Tefillah was over, that Jew got up and walked out of the shul. They ran after him to invite him in for a meal. Where would he eat? But he was gone. No one ever saw him again. And the story is told that night, Rav Malkiel had a dream. And in that dream, Avraham Avinu himself came to him, and he recognized the face. Avraham Avinu had come to daven with them to make the minyan. And because of that, this Beit Knesset got its name, Beit Knesset Avraham Avinu. The Jewish presence in Hebron never was large, maybe 20 families. It grew at one point to maybe 100 families. And in 1924, the Yeshiva of Slobodka decided to leave Europe and come to Eretz Yisrael. And the Rosh Yeshiva, the Alter of Slobodka, Rav Nosson Tzvi Finkel, decided to move the yeshiva right here to Hebron. A very, very special move. But unfortunately, in 1929, there was a terrible massacre of the Jews living here in Hebron. Over 60 Jews lost their lives, including 24 students from the yeshiva. Because of that, a short time after, all the Jews left Hebron. The yeshiva moved to Yerushalayim. Till this very day, there's one of the largest yeshivat in Yerushalayim is Yeshivat Hebron. That was the yeshiva that was here. This Beit Knesset, unfortunately, was destroyed. In 1967, after the Six-Day War, when Tzahal reconquered Hebron from the Arabs, Jews started slowly to move back to Hebron. And one Jew took upon himself to rebuild this Beit Knesset exactly how it looked 500 years ago. I want to take a little walk towards this little area now, which is the Jewish community of Hebron, which is still very, very small. But it's a beautiful thing to see the bravery of the Jews living here, surrounded all around them by the gigantic Arab community. There are almost 200,000 Arabs who live in Hebron, and less than 1,000 Jews. But they're living here to make a point and say, we belong here also. Let's have a look. We've just left the Beit Knesset Avraham Avinu, and the neighborhood that was built around the Beit Knesset called Shchunat Avraham Avinu, where around 20 families live today. But it's not the only area in Hebron which has been resettled by Jews. I'm standing now in front of a beautiful building. The building is called Beit Hadassah. Beit Hadassah was a hospital. The building was built around just over 100 years ago, and it offered free medical service to Jews and Arabs alike. But after the riots of 1929, the Jews had to leave this area, and for many years the building was empty. However, in 1979, in a tremendous act of gvura, of heroism, 50 women and children came to Beit Hadassah and refused to leave. They said, we belong here. and they lived under terrible conditions, surrounded by thousands of Arabs. But they refused to leave. It took quite a while, but finally they and their families were allowed to be reunited and stay here in this area. Today, 30 families live in the Beit Hadassah complex. There are playgrounds, there are children, there's a school, a yeshiva, and it just goes to show, with gvura, with heroism, with the belief that you truly belong here, you can accomplish anything. Beit Hadassah is a perfect example for the pasuk which tells us, V'shavu banim ligvulam. We've come back to Hebron. We've settled the home of the Avot. Our final stop today is at Yeshivat Shavi Hebron. Yeshivat Shavi Hebron is housed in a building that was built around 150 years ago by a family from Turkey called the Romano family. It is therefore known as Beit Romano. The building housed the yeshiva in the early 1900s, but in 1929, due to the Arab riots, the building had to be evacuated. A few years ago, after the 1967 war, Jews returned to Beit Romano, and they rebuilt the yeshiva. As you can see, the building has been enlarged and renovated. And today, the Yeshivat Shavi Hebron has more than 250 boys who have dedicated their lives to learning Torah. I'm sure that the Avot and Imahot, resting just a couple of minutes away, hear the sounds of the Torah being learned in this building, here in Hebron. And they go before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and they say, Ribono Shel Olam, look at your children, how much they love Eretz Yisrael, how much they love Torat Yisrael. And our tefillah is that the Avot HaKadoshim will daven to Hashem and let's say, Hashem, let's hear the sound of the shofar shel Mashiach. All the tzarot will end, Mashiach will come, and we'll all rejoice together in the city of Hebron, and just north from here, in the city of Yerushalayim. Shabbat Shalom. Okay. Always a special opportunity to be here in Maarat Hamachpela and to meet some very, very special people. I have with me today
Joel Hirsch.
Joel Hirsch. Joel, you look like you've been here for 100 years, 1,000 years. How long have you been living in Eretz Yisrael?
I've been living in Eretz Yisrael for 5.5 years.
Where are you from?
I'm from, of course, New York. Born in Brooklyn, raised on Long Island.
Unbelievable. So all the way from New York to Long Island to here to Maarat Hamachpela. What did you do in America?
I was a New York City firefighter, and then I later became a registered nurse in a cardiac ward in a hospital. Now I'm basically retired and looking to lead a life of tshuva, hachnosis orchim, bikur cholim, that is afforded to me at a much greater extent living in Eretz Yisrael than in the States.
I don't know, I look at you, I see Avraham Avinu, I don't know, I see Yitzchak and Yaakov, and how does it feel to be here in Maarat Hamachpela?
The best thing I like about Maarat Hamachpela is that the purity of being in Hebron, Pela, Avraham Avinu neighborhood, Beit Romano, all the neighborhoods, and there's such a shek in the purity. The air is clean, the people are happy. It's the epicenter of where heaven meets earth, I believe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, Shabbat Shalom.
You're welcome.